Good morning. This is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and it's Thursday morning, April 9th. It always helps to, look at the calendar now and then, right? Just to make sure. And we're having a Charter Moms chat this morning, and I'm here to talk about things that I think are relevant during pandemic parenting as we're doing remote learning and, figuring out how to take good care of our kids, how to stay sane, how to try to prepare for a better future, hopefully, when we come out of this. So I've been trying to plan ahead what topics we're going to talk about. Something that's come up often in the last few weeks in the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group. And I hope, if you're not a member yet, I hope you will request to join right now, because we have a lot of resources and a lot of discussion to help families do the best they can in the situation that we're in. But something that's come up often is like teachers describing what their experience is like, and then parents kind of also venting about their feelings about educating their kids at home. That's not really homeschooling, it's sort of something different. So I wanted to kind of talk about what some of the concerns are on both sides, and then also just have kind of a call for grace and understanding, because it's something a wise person told me. It was meant as kind of a joke, but it's kind of true about marriage. If you have a marriage where each side is only giving 50%, it's not going to work. If you have a marriage where each side gives 100%, or feels like they're giving 100%, then it's going to work. So this is one of those situations where there's just not enough energy and time to go around, and teachers and parents, both sides, are going to feel like they're giving 100% or more. And that's just what we're going to have to do to get through this. And then once the dust settles and life comes back to some kind of normal, then we'll have to figure out how to get things caught up. So I wanted to talk about some things I've seen posted in the group comments by teachers about, what this feels like for them. So, basically locally here in San Antonio, it was towards the end of our spring break. So around March 13th or so was when a lot of the announcements went out that when school was supposed to come back on March 16th from spring break, that campuses were going to stay closed. And some schools went right away to doing distance learning. So some of the private schools or bases jumped right into remote learning. And some schools kind of declared like a second spring break, which was sort of professional development for teachers. The catch is that all of a sudden the teachers were working from home. Now, I think it depends on the school. Some schools, the parents have still, or teachers have still needed to come in. I know, so my kids are at Great Hearts, and once it became clear that the school wasn't going to reopen for a while, the teachers went on campus and they packed up all the stuff and all the supplies in student desks and lockers. And then on one of our trips to school to drop off schoolwork, we were able to pick up a bag with our kids' stuff. So, so teachers are on campus for things like that. I see Lori's watching. Hello, Lori, how are you? So teachers are on campus, but a lot of what they're expected to do is working from home. And that's different for them, right? They don't have their materials. So, and then think about what they're being asked to do, right? Maybe they already had their curriculum and their lesson plans set up for the remainder of the school year, planning to deliver those lessons in class, right? So they had, if they're teaching a math lesson, they had like 10 frames or manipulatives or, activities planned out. Well, now all of a sudden they have to devise things that can be either put into a packet that can be printed and sent home, or they have to put it in some kind of technology like Google Classroom or some other kind of app. And it depends on the school, how much training, how much experience folks had with that. One thing I wonder about in the long run, now that teachers, so many teachers have had this trial by fire, this sudden exposure to distance learning, how many of them will keep doing tools like that? Some of my friends who live up north have said, you know what, snow days are never going to be the same again, right? No excuses, right? So, they're not going to shut down schools for a week. They might take a day to pivot to online learning, but Yeah, it's just not going to be, snow days will never be the same. It's just going to be like, okay, you get to work online now. It's pandemic schooling again. So now it depends on the teachers, but some of them have their own kids at home that they're having to, take care of, and also, if they're school age, educate. So think about the teachers. It's like all of a sudden they're working from home, they're preparing online lessons instead of in-person lessons, and that may be a new experience for them. If they have young children, they're having to do childcare. If they have school-age children, they're having to supervise their own kids' studies while they're working and preparing lessons for their students. So meanwhile, in terms of their emotional support, they're not able to go to their workplace. They don't get to see their coworkers. They don't get to see their students except maybe on a Zoom call. They're not getting the oversight from their school leaders that they're used to getting. So they're in a tough situation. Maybe they have a spouse who's lost their job or is still working, but is working in a hazardous situation, right? Maybe they work in a hospital. Maybe they are worried about their students. Some students may be food insecure. Some may not have technology that they need to get their lessons done. What I've seen happen so far is that schools have been sending out surveys. There's a little bit of a catch-22 there, which is if you can't fill out the survey, maybe it's because you don't have access to the internet. So what I'm hoping is that schools are looking at the non-responses and going out of their way to try to contact those students by other means. But I've seen data. I haven't seen data for San Antonio, but I've seen, I guess in the Express News, they reported about a San Antonio ISD board meeting, and one trustee in particular, Steve Leschlow, was concerned about how many students were still uncontacted by the district, and that's an equity concern. How do we make sure those kids are learning? So teachers they care about their students and they're worried. And then this may seem like not a big deal, but they're missing out on traditions, right? This is when the seniors would be getting ready for graduation. They do the senior walk, right? Maybe, I don't know if your school does that, but I've seen it at KIPP, I've seen it at Great Hearts. The seniors put on their caps and gowns and they march through the hallways where the younger kids are, and the younger kids give them high fives, and the seniors are presented as leaders, right? They've accomplished this, they've made it through, and those traditions just aren't happening, right? There's no like college signing day, right? Like IDEA and KIPP are known for that, making a really big deal about what colleges their students are going to. It's going to be, I guess it'll have to be virtual college signing day, but it's just not the same energy. So that's, I think it's important to have compassion for the teachers. Teachers, if you're listening to this and I've left out something, or you want to amplify on something I've said, leave a comment or send me a message. Comment in the group. Tell us, what you're experiencing, because I think it's important for parents to put ourselves in your shoes and understand how it feels. So now, from the parent perspective, I think I've heard parents complain, like, okay, hopefully the teachers are still getting paid, right? So as far as I know, they are. But the parents are like, wait a minute, I'm helping teach my kids too, and I'm not getting paid for this, right? That's making light of it, but seriously, it's a workload issue, right? Their parents, if you are working from home and you still have a job, that's great, but you're trying to juggle, supervising your kids' education and keeping your job going, and that's hard, and especially if you have a larger family or if you have young children who need close supervision to stay on task. If you have very young children who are not school age yet, they need close attention so that they're safe. If you have teenagers, they might need some monitoring for their motivation. Because there might be some, sort of senioritis or kind of spring fever setting in. If they're outside their normal structure, it can be hard to keep everyone on a good schedule, right? I see, like, some schools are actually trying to take attendance and just make sure that kids log in before noon every day. That's real life. So one thing that I think several people in the group have commented is that this remote learning or distance learning stuff, it's not the same as when you choose to homeschool. So for one thing, when you're choosing to homeschool, as a parent, like you're picking the materials, the curriculum. Also under more normal circumstances, like back when I homeschooled my son when he was 6 years old, we could go places. So, right, like, so if you watched yesterday's video, we talked about, I showed off some of our membership cards for like museums and the botanical garden and places we like to go. We still have our memberships, we're still supporting those organizations, but we can't visit. So, we are tuning in to some of their online offerings, but it's not the same as being able to go. And so homeschooling while you're cooped up in your house is really weird. It's not supposed to include this much screen time. Like this is not normal. So like we're having to adapt as parents. Like we're teaching what the school is providing for us, and I'm thankful for it because for my kids it gives them continuity. It's things that they're familiar with, right? They're picking up their lessons where they left off before spring break. But it can be hard. Like if you're, so like my son is learning Latin and I don't know enough Latin to help him. So, and he's learning algebra. So thankfully my sister, who is really good at math and computer science, she's helping him. She's tutoring him on algebra over video chat. So, again, because we're practicing social distancing, but, she can, tune in over the video chat and look at, I taught him how to use his iPad to scan his homework, and she kind of checks his homework with him. But, it's hard. Like when my daughter has a question with a writing assignment, I try to, give her the emotional support that she needs if she is not sure about the answer. Thankfully the school has added, I guess the term is synchronous instruction, right? So there's a certain time slot every day when all the kids in her grade can log in and get help with, and they can choose a different Zoom channel for different types of questions. So there's a Zoom meeting number for the math teacher, and there's one for the writing and literature, and there's one for history and science. And so they can get help during that hour so it's kind of like virtual office hours where they can get help. Good question. Let's see. April's asking, does San Antonio Public Library still offer online tutoring? That is a good question. I will look into that, and I will post the answer on the page and in the group. I think so, but I'm not sure. Christina says, I'm obsessing over the access equity part. We started online learning, while a good percentage of our kids didn't. Like how many devices really got deployed? I was listening. So I recommend you tune in on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central is when Idea Public Schools has their virtual town hall. And Irma Munoz, who's the head of operations, she was talking about how they ordered a whole bunch of devices, and they're stuck in a shipyard in China, and they got delayed by a week. And so they're having to get creative with a lot of school buses now have Wi-Fi. And so if they park the school buses in a certain area, the kids can, maybe get close, but still stay 6 feet apart from each other, but like close enough to get access to the Wi-Fi. We're just having to get creative with the solutions for this. I think this exposed, like Christina was saying, there was inequity already out there, and this is just making it worse. April's commenting that she's concerned about food security and medical care, and it's really important to keep in mind that we're trying to keep kids educated, but like every family has to take care of their basic needs first. So if schools like IDEA or SAISD, and they are having like food distribution, that's something that's a really important service they can provide to families, so that kids who are used to getting several meals a day at school, they can still get access to those meals. I was listening, IDEA they can now feed kids on weekends and holidays as well. They got a waiver to be able to do that. Let's see, Christina says, SASD ordered 30,000 extra. Yeah, so there's a lot of devices. Sorry, Christina, I can't see your whole comment on my little screen here. But why don't we come back to this topic another day, because it's really important. So parents feel frustrated, and it's even the parents who have access to technology are having to learn a lot of new platforms, right? So some of us had used Zoom before or Microsoft Teams, or WebEx, and so for some of us it's new. We're still getting a handle on it, and for some schools it's maybe one or two different platforms that you have to use, and for other schools it's adding more and more layers where there's like multiple apps. Some work better on tablets, some work better on laptops. Sometimes even if you get a tablet from the school, but then the screen seems tiny when you're trying to read and do work on it. It's yes, Christina, we will come back to this. It's really important. It's part of what it's causing stress for both teachers and parents, and that's what we're my hope today is that I'm trying to air some of the concerns that people in the group have expressed, so that parents can understand what stress the teachers are going through, and teachers can have a sense of, which I'm sure they already do, but of what stress the parents are experiencing. We all don't know how long this is going to go on, right? So at this point, both KIPP and IDEA have canceled on-campus events or classes for the rest of this current school year. So honestly, I'm just keeping my ears open, waiting for other schools or districts to say what their plans are for the rest of the school year. But my observation is that everybody seems to be working really hard to get distance learning up and running and to get as much benefit as they can from this school year. Being mindful that like testing has canceled. There's going to be no new school letter grade ratings for a year. That all of that accountability stuff is kind of on hold for a year, and that we just hope that people get better, that that the loss of life is minimized, that gradually we can get the stay-at-home orders will get lifted, and we can get back out in the community. Hopefully more treatments will be found. Hopefully there will be a vaccine sooner or later, and we can. Who knows? But whether it's August or whether it's some later date, hopefully we can get kids back in classrooms, and then, because having good relationships between teachers and students is really fundamental to education. I know I've seen it in my own kids. When they have teachers that they love and respect, they will really stretch themselves to do the best they can, and the teachers are role models for them. And I know that as a parent, there's a lot I can do for my kids and to help them, become good adults and independent people who make good choices and want to do right for society. But they need role models outside the family as well. And I know that their teachers fill that role for them. And teachers, we miss you and we appreciate you, and we know you're working really hard. And the SU Charter Moms discussion group is a place for teachers and for parents to share what concerns them. And I'm thankful for people in the group who have been civil, and they express themselves, but they support each other and they speak with understanding and love. So that's the best we can do. So let's see. Okay, so tomorrow is a school holiday for lots of folks. My family and I were going to go on a trail walk while practicing social distancing, but for us, being out in the outdoors is really helpful to us. So, but I promise we are being super careful. Now, the city, county, state, regional parks are closed over Easter weekend. So anyway, long story short, no video tomorrow morning, Friday, because we're going to be hiking. But we will be back on Monday, and I've got Facebook events set up. Christina, let's come back to the equity topic. I will message you, and we'll figure something out. So okay, all right, take care, guys.